I'm not one for celebrating the odometer rolling over, but how about that episode number, huh? 4 digits is quite an accomplishment. Okay, that's enough back-patting, let's get on with this. Star Wars Teikoku no Gyakushuu is a follow-up to Victor's Star Wars, but not Namco's Star Wars. The previous Star Wars game on the Famicom was developed by disastrously awful Australian developer Beam Software. After that cartridge of misery was released, LucasArts decided to bring development for the sequel in-house. And that sounds good, right? Well, despite being several years old at that point, up to 1992, almost everything LucasArts had developed was either an adventure game or a simulator. No platformers, very little in the way of action games, and what little they did was about 7 years old at that point. But still, it's just a side-scrolling action game, the most common and popular genre in the world. There's a full decade of examples of how to do it right. Surely they can't screw it up that badly. Oh, they screwed it up that badly. Teikoku no Gyakushuu is the Japanese title of the second film, known internationally as The Good Star Wars Movie. There are 10 stages in the game that roughly replicate the plot of the movie, though you only ever play as Luke Skywalker. In the hour that I played, I managed to make it to the 3rd level. And frankly, it's a bit amazing that I made it that far. The platforming stages are huge, sprawling affairs where you have to find your way to certain goals on some absolutely immense maps. On these stages, A jumps and B will attack. At the start of the game, your only attack is a blaster, and you can aim it in 8 directions, although I always had trouble with the diagonals. Shooting in 8 directions also means that there's no crouching, even though there's lots of things low to the ground that you need to aim at. You start the game on a tauntaun, and you can get off and on it by hitting select, or when you get hit, you'll get knocked off of it. There's other vehicles that you can climb in with select as well, like this ATST walker, though it explodes when you get out of that one. You'll find lots of things scattered around the stage to collect. Hearts will restore health. You only get 1 life in this game, and even worse, you have a limited number of continues. The Fs restore force power, and that goes down as you use certain special abilities. You'll have to collect these special abilities on stages by finding the icons for them. One of the first and most convenient abilities is the super jump. You activate that by holding down for a few seconds until you flash, and then you can jump much higher. It even works when you're on a tauntaun. After you collect an icon for a lightsaber power-up, you can hit select to switch your weapon between the lightsaber and the blaster. Deflecting attacks is a force power, and you have to activate it by hitting start, and then specifically selecting it. Then it'll consume a bit of your force power whenever you get shot. Sadly, it doesn't seem to deflect shots back at people. The other 2 power-ups I got were super speed, which promptly ran me off a cliff, and a stronger lightsaber attack. You'll encounter bosses as you go through the stages, or maybe they're mini-bosses. Either way, they'll have a life bar that appears as you approach them, and they just take a ton of hits to defeat. Besides wandering platforming mazes for all of eternity, hoping to eventually stumble onto a path that will let you out, there are also shooting levels. If this snowspeeder level looks familiar, it's probably because it's almost identical to the Atari 2600 Empire Strikes Back game. The AT-ATs are very slowly walking west toward the rebel base, and you have to destroy all of them before they get there. You can do that by shooting them a whole lot, or by flying below them and hitting select, which fires a harpoon. But you only have 5 harpoons for the stage, it requires a bit of precision to actually hit them, and there's more than 5 AT-ATs on the level. So for most of the AT-ATs, you'll be forced to very slowly shoot them. When you're inevitably shot down the snowspeeder, you hop out and have to wander around, and all you do is shoot a bunch of stormtroopers until another snowspeeder shows up, then jump up into it. The S's that they drop restore a little bit of your health. Later stages in the game take you to Dagobah and Bespin. Star Wars Teikoku no Gyakushuu is both absurdly hard and incredibly easy to cheese. The things that are hard are things like the platforming, and having to make blind jumps, and having enormous stages with poor landmarking and no interesting features. Closest thing you get to a landmark is that sometimes you'll get a cutscene with a digitized picture, and that doesn't help you if you accidentally come back that way. There are paths that will take you 4 or 5 minutes to go down, and then you'll get one item at the end and have to go all the way back. On the other hand, it's not that hard to skip ahead by carving a careful path through breakable blocks, or stand just out of the reach of bosses. I'm even a bit dubious that you have to fight a lot of the bosses. As a 1993 Famicom game, this didn't really have an impact in Japan, and the few people I could find who had played it didn't think very much of it. Obviously, I didn't care for this one, and as rough as this game looks, it's even worse to play. The controls always feel stiff, like they're doing more for the animation than the gameplay. Yeah, it looks pretty when that snowspeeder swoops around, but it doesn't feel good. And then there's things like the horrible droning sound that some of the enemies make. Yeah, that wasn't an audio processing problem you've been hearing. This game is just a mess, and it's definitely for the best that the Famicom never got a Return of the Jedi game.